La 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 lava, la 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 chicken. Steve's love a chicken. I've got that song stuck in my head. Oh, I need to think of an intro. I'm just gonna use that. It's been stuck in my head for like the last 3 days. So, intro done. Hey everyone, I'm Kojo, CJ. So now we're going to be going over the third deck out of 5 when it comes to the Dragonstorm Tarkir set. To be honest, I've been enjoying making these, but again, they're releasing stuff very fast that it's hard to keep up with. So I've got 2 more and then the set to go over, and the set's already been out. So yeah, that's going to be fun. But before we go any further in the set, I kind of need to do the odd little thing that I do. So if you like me and what I do, I have a small little Etsy shop where I make t-shirts and hoodies in different sizes and colours with designs I've decided to make to put on your sexy body that people may enjoy, people may not, but it helps support the channel. Also liking, subscribing and doing all that other stuff helps too. So again, if you want to help me and support my channel grow, please buy yourself something nice and all that other good stuff. So when it comes to this video, I will be going over the commander, the sub-commanders, the best parts of the deck, give my thoughts and feelings on each part, and then an overall kind of, is this deck worth buying or not? This video is more to help people decide what's in the deck and also to see if they're willing to buy it or not, if it's on the cusp. Plus it's also a good conversational piece for people that have bought the deck or have their own opinions on the deck too. So let's get into the video by talking about the commander of the deck, and the commander is Cotris 6-Seed Champion. For a black, green and a blue, you get a legendary creature zombie warrior that is a mythic. Once during each of your turns, you may cast a creature spell from your graveyard by exiling 3 other cards from your graveyard in addition to paying its other costs. Whenever one or more creatures you control enter, if one or more of those creatures entered from your graveyard or was cast from your graveyard, put 2/1 counters on Cotris, and is a 3/3. To be honest, this is kind of already good in my opinion straight off the bat, because again, you sacrifice something, we'll say like discard a 10 cost card, then you play like 3 little creatures that you don't really care for, you attack, they die, then you get rid of those 3, let's say 1 mana, 2 mana creatures, and then you're able to get the big massive 9-10 cost card from your graveyard to the battlefield. I also think it's good because it just says creatures, it doesn't say, no, it says creature spells, so tokens don't count. Because I think the ones that there's like the 3-headed, it's like horse tyrant thingy that when it dies it splits off into 3, and then there's the Phyrexian version that becomes 3/3/3s. They would have been good, but no, it's creature spells, so sadly that doesn't work there. Plus, whenever you do reanimate or bring something back from your graveyard, your commander gets a little buff. So to be honest, I do like this because you can play a load of cheap cost creatures, discard big creatures, put equipment on your commander, make him unblockable with the blues part of him. Especially since the colours are really good for reanimating, really good for kind of landfall, land cards, growing your land base and stuff like that, and then blue for really cool powerful spells of making things unblockable or stuff like that, and then drawing to be able to make your hand bigger and stuff like that to put hands in your graveyard. I do think this is a good commander with lots of different potential. So now with that, let's go on to the sub-commander, and the sub-commander is Tevel the Balanced Scale. For 1 black, green and a blue, you get a legendary creature Spirit Dragon that is a mythic, has flying. Whenever Tevel attacks, mill 3 cards. Then you may return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black zombie druid creature token and is a 4/4. Not gonna lie, I actually prefer this. 4 mana for 4/4 with flying, in my opinion, is really good. When it attacks, I would prefer if this was a May trigger, but you get to mill 3 of your cards, and then you get a landfall trigger, which again is really good, because if you play a card, then also attack, you mill 3, get a land. I think good lands like Fabled Passage and stuff like that would be great. My problem with this so far is the way I would build it is completely different from the deck itself, and I find it even more further away from the commander. Plus, I really do like that whenever you get to bring something back, it doesn't have to even be a creature. You get a token that is good for a blocker or an attacker. I do think, in my personal opinion, and I actually would probably build this deck, I would really like this, but I would be hard focusing on putting as many cards in the graveyard as I possibly can, and then playing cards that let you play lands from the graveyard that have landfall triggers, and that let you play multiple lands on a turn. So like Explore, or I can never remember her name, but she's a creature that lets you play 2 additional lands on your turn. And then I would fill this with maybe 40-45 lands, have unique lands that can turn into creatures and stuff, and weird stuff like that. That's how I would build it. To be honest, I really like the SubCommander. I actually think, my opinion so far, it is the best kind of SubCommander that they've made when it comes to these decks. I would actually probably build a deck, so if you're interested in that, let me know and I'll do a deck take on how I would personally build it. Let's dive in right into the creatures. When it comes to this, there is a total of 37 creatures, and to be honest, I was kind of shocked what was in here, but you get great creatures just like Diviner of Mist, Floral Evoker, Steward of the Harvest, Colossal Grave Reaver, Gravecrawler, Ampin Mutineer, River Kelpie, Truthy Realm Walker, Disciple of Bolus, Jundi the Midnight Sky, Lord of the Forsaken, Necropolis Fiend, Noxious Gearhulk, Omnixilus the Fallen, Tazgra the Golden Fang, Woe Strider, Avenger of Zendikar, Multani Yavimaya Avatar, Shigeki Jukai Visionary, Consuming Apparition, Jared Golgari Lichlord, Lord of Execution, Marin of Kalneth Toth. So when it comes to this, I did think from the start the creatures are going to be the best. I also then think the sorceries are going to be next, or the instances of sorceries, the spells of the deck is going to be the second best. I do really like a lot of the cards in this. I would actually probably buy the deck for a lot of these cards. I always want Avenger of Zendikar. I do think it's a very powerful card. There's also a lot of cards in here I do find powerful. My only kind of problem, it's not even really a problem, is the SubCommander seems more of a landfall deck, and I do think there's a fair few cards that would be really good with him, but won't be as good with the SubCommander. I do think there's a lot of powerful creatures that cost a lot of mana, so again, ramp would probably definitely be needed and stuff like that. And I do think exiling 3 cards to play some of these are not really worth it in my opinion, especially if there is a low amount of low cost creatures to then get rid of to play the bigger ones with the commander. But now let's go on to the spells. When it comes to this, there is a total of 19 spells, but you get great spells just like Afterlife from the Loam, Welcome the Dead, Will of the Sultai, Life from the Loam, Casualties of War, Living Death, Necromantic Selection, and Lethal Scheme. So as I thought, the sorceries was going to be the more powerful stuff, more than the instances. I do think some of the instances are quite good, but again, the hard focus is on the sorceries. I do like a lot of these cards, and I actually want to get my hands on 1 or 2 of the cards from this deck. I do think that the powerful kind of spells are belonging in this deck. I do really think that there's a lot of good cards for them to pick, and they did do quite well, especially because the other cards I can think of are more heavily priced for them to put in a deck like this. But next up is enchantments. When it comes to enchantments, there's 3 in total, so I'm just going to read out all 3, and they are Tevil's Judgment, Phyrexian Reclamation, Crawling Sensation. So when it comes to these decks, not everything's going to be perfect, not everything's going to be overpowered, and I am happy when it comes to this. And usually with making all these videos, I know where from the commander and SubCommander where the hard focus is going to be and where all the good spells are. So having 3 enchantments is where I thought it was going to be. To be honest, I thought they would probably throw in a Phyrexian Marina because they've been doing that a lot, but they didn't. The card selection is good. I really do love the Judgment card. I actually am putting it in one of the new decks I'm building. I did think the enchantments are good for what both the commander and SubCommander are looking for. I did think there would probably be a little bit more power, but I was more thinking maybe 2 rares and then an uncommon and uncommon, but that's just me. I think they toned it down a little bit more than I originally thought, but again, that's completely fine. Now on to what I personally will think is the weakest part of the deck, and I personally think I am correct. the artifacts, when it comes to this, there is 4 in total, with 2 of them being mana rocks, but the other 2 are Conduit of Worlds, Essence Anchor. Not gonna lie, the World card I absolutely love. I think the World card is an amazing card for this deck. The other one is okay, I can see where they're going for it. It's quite good in this. But to be honest, I do think with the landfall deck, I think there is the amulet, I can't remember what it's called, but things entered untapped instead of tapped. I think there's the turtle, but I don't think it's the colours for this. That's the creature. I do think there's 1 or 2 other cards that also let things enter untapped. I think throwing that in, I don't know the price of the amulet, so maybe that's the reason it's not in. But I actually thought the amulet would go in, mainly because there's going to be a lot of lands either way you play the commander or subcommander. So having a fair few powerful lands, especially with the amount of ramp they put in here, only putting in the classic Soul Ring and Arcane Signet, but usually they put in 3 or 4 other cards, but they didn't this time. So I found it to be putting kind of all the mana rocks squished down in the amulet would have been, in my opinion, a better idea, mainly because putting in a lot of tap lands that enter, the 3 color lands, anything that is when you have to bounce a land back, you get 2 colors that also enters tapped. I think something like that is really good for this type of deck, and plus when it comes to this, the lands are usually a bit weaker, so having that amulet in would have been a really good card, but they didn't put it in, so it must be rather a very expensive card or people don't like it. Again, we'll have to see. Then finally, the lands. When it comes to this, there is 37 lands in total, which again, I think is a little bit less, but I think they always kind of hard focus on 37-ish lands and won't go much higher or much lower. So that's kind of their baseline. But you'll get lands just like Commander Beacon, Crypt of Agadim, Dreamroot Cascade, Dawnyard Temple, Hitterland Harbour, Sunken Hollow, Woodland Cemetery, Temple of Melody. So if you've watched any of my videos before, you know I always kind of give out when it comes to the lands. They are doing better. I do think filter lands are really good and really cheap and should be pretty much in all of these if they have 2 or 3 colours or more. I do think when it comes to this, they took out the best lands, so like the filter lands and stuff like that, to put in the cards that have unique abilities, where in my opinion, both are really cheap. I think most filter lands are like a $5-ish. So again, I think having both in are great, taking out some of the really, really bad lands to make this a good land base for people to kind of push forward and for new players to kind of understand the lands better and be able to play better. But it seems to be, in my opinion, they should have both, but they're either picking filter lands or lands with abilities, not really both. I do think Crypt of Agadim is a really good land for this deck, especially since you're planning on milling. So again, that is really good. So they probably replaced that and took out the filter lands. I do think for this deck, 2 filter lands would go really well, but again, that's just me. Now my overall thoughts and opinions of this deck. To be honest, it is my favourite deck out of the 3 videos I've made so far. I do think the SubCommander is better in my opinion, but it's more of a how I play compared to others. I would probably make a deck, I'm not going to, but if people are interested, I would make a Moxfield version of it and then talk about, do a deck tech video on that if people are interested. I do think a lot of good cards are in here, mainly in the creature and spell department. I was kind of shocked to see the artifacts only having 2 mana rocks, and then the enchantments and lands are what I would have guessed when it comes to this type of product. I think overall I would give this an 8.8 out of 10. I do think it is really good for your purchase, especially if you are a newer player. I think this is a good deck to teach people how graveyards are also a resource. A lot of new players kind of, like a few months in, eventually learn it, but straight off the bat going, cool, hand is the main focus. I do think this is a very friendly beginner deck and also a really good deck for veteran players. But there are my thoughts and opinions on this deck. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below, and while you're there, to like and subscribe and do all that YouTubey stuff we always ask for and beg for and annoy you with. I also want to thank everyone because since recording this, I have got 2k subscribers. So again, thank you for all your support so far. I'm really enjoying this, so I'd love to make this kind of my full-time thing. But if you like me and what I do and would like to help and support the channel and all of that, remember, like, subscribe, follow, and watch more of my content. But as always, I have the previous deck here, a playlist of all the Is It Worth It deck stuff here, and a subscribe button here, and I shall see you all in the next video.